And I apologize, I don't have the agenda in front of me. I'm out of
Approval of minutes.
I'm out of printing toner. Yeah, so the first order of business is to approve minutes. And I had asked Kristen to include just the 5 topics that we had discussed, but let's open it up. Anyone have any feedback or comments on the minutes that need to be added?
Under section 5, in the middle of the paragraph, there was.
I think we should do the motion to approve first.
Oh, that's right, of course. Sorry.
Is there a motion?
Move
I'll
to
make a
approve.
motion. Oh, okay. I'll second.
Great, thanks, MP.
Now you can go.
Yeah.
Now, Pam, go for it.
With amendments as noted by Pam.
Section 5, old business, in the middle of the paragraph, it says there was discussion of non-residents and the parking difficulties they possess during certain times of the year. I believe that probably was meant to be pose.
Mm.
Any other comments? Okay. The only other piece that was just making sure we included the 5 areas where communication with community and other stakeholders, designated non-resident parking volumes and location, rates and charges, sales of passes, and how we inspect the system in the process. And if any of these are decided that we don't want to discuss them, we can strike them as a commission, but this is what came out of our discussion. Any other additions, questions, or comments? Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor, motion passes, minutes accepted. Public comments, just trying to see who we might have on here. Peggy has joined. I don't think we have any other guests.
Danielle, do we have anybody?
Yes, we do have 3 people. I don't see anybody raising their hands.
So move forward, Rob.
Yeah, I'm just looking over. So it's Cheryl, Kristen, and Ruth. Thank you for joining. So just a couple comments for tonight's meeting under the chair's comments, and I'm going to actually use the balance of my time to really make sure that we allow Peggy some time so she can speak and give us some updates. So a couple things. First of all, Peggy, thank you for joining for the update. She'll give us an update and answer any questions. Scott and Austin, they've been meeting on a regular basis and attending meetings together as part of the transition plan. I also had a chance to meet with both of them last week to prep for this meeting. Just to let the group know, I met with David Anderson, the town's planner, and had a great meeting with him, which was really insightful. Some of you know him. And Dave has agreed to join our next meeting, if not the May meeting, the June meeting, just to give a brief overview of his role, current projects, answer any questions, but really talk about where there's opportunity for beach and recreation to collaborate or just be made aware, and thought that would be good for the commission. Do want to make note that we're looking for a Rockland Preserve commission member to attend their meetings. I know Pam and MP also serve to cover meetings. I know Scott attends meetings. So with Shane not here, Vince, it's between you and I, and we'd like to.
You can go, absolutely.
You're smooth, Vince, you're smooth. So I'll work with Scott on that date and take that. I'd be happy to do that.
We can work, I can help you out.
I know.
I'm just.
So just to set up Peggy, so at our last meeting, we aligned on those 5 areas. These were items to review, really just to make sure we understood, do we have what we need? Are there opportunities to improve? And if so, would we consider recommendations or changes? And these weren't necessarily something that had to happen this beach season, but as opposed to just looking at a fee structure, what would it have to be? Now, Shane had suggested that we consider getting really specific versus general discussion. I think with Peggy here and the updates that Scott, Austin, and Peggy have, it may be best to dedicate time to discuss tonight. I'm going to let Pam kind of guide that discussion. Pam and I spoke this month just to talk a little bit about how do we get specific around parking, and understanding that, and either our position is great as is, or maybe we decide to make adjustments to it. But I think it's going to be important for Peggy to really give this group an update on a number of issues. So those are my only comments. And Peggy, with that, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you for having me again. It's good to see everybody. Well, I think that, Scott and Austin and I had kind of an operational discussion about a week ago, just to review a lot of different things that we might want to tweak or change from the previous season. I think the one big question that we can't answer right now is really where we will be in terms of state restrictions. The idea right now is that May 20th, we might be out of the state of public health emergency. And then we as a town, then if we want to implement any kind of guidelines or restrictions at the beaches, that would be a town policy. It would not be following kind of state guidelines or recommendations. So that's still a little bit of an unknown right now. And I think our approach is going to be similar to what we did last summer in terms of how we're staffing programs and, recommendations that people social distance and wear masks and things like that I think we just provided last summer. Also, we didn't come down with a heavy hand of enforcement on a lot of these things at our beaches, but we obviously tried to promote good habits and behavior. I don't envision us having capacity restrictions. Last year we did have, half of the surf club parking lot basically closed off in order to keep reduced capacity levels at the beaches. I'm hoping that we can just have our lots fully open. I'm also not anticipating having to count the number of people that go on the beach. So I think all of us would prefer to have to not have what was really a difficult July and August doing that. I think it was more in August that we actually had to go to that level because, things were just getting very crowded. So the hope is that we don't have to worry about those things. I don't know still what Hammonasset is doing, and we're hoping to have a call with them during the month of April with the state about overall their plans for Hammonasset. So, the hope is that if Hammonasset is not going to have capacity restrictions, that will be a pressure release for us. And so we went through a lot of kind of operational discussions about, staffing. And I think, as you know, part of this year's budget is to include 7-day-a-week full staffing and gate guards at all the beaches. And the hours, I think we're recommending staying with the same policies that we had last summer in terms of how staffing would be handled. We are looking to have weekend staffing this May, which we last year had implemented more in crisis mode, I think, which normally we don't staff the gates, but because the public was and the demand was so high and we were having a lot of issues, we wanted to be ahead of it a little bit this year. So Scott's working on that. Part of that is it's just hard to get staff because usually these are people, college kids or whatever, and we might not be able to get the kind. So we're working on a plan that hopefully we can have at least at the small parking lot beaches, East Wharf and West Wharf, gate attendants there for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the idea is we would use the same policies we had last year where you just have to show, I guess, proof of residency or purchase a pass to park there. We are not going to be able to, I don't think, in kind of the environment, we kind of have to go back to the old rules that we followed before where we can't restrict non-residents to come to our beaches. We just have to provide opportunities for them to visit. And so, but I think one of the things that we talked about was the non-resident pass policy. And I think what, at least internally, I think Austin and Scott and I talked about was, the idea is trying to control that volume, right? So that a resident doesn't show up at 10 o'clock to the surf club on a Saturday. And because Hammonasset shut down at 9:30, there's no parking lot spots left at a town beach. And so we're looking at maybe limiting the amount of resident passes that we would sell, non-resident guest passes that we would sell each day, so that there would be, an assurance that, people from out of town wouldn't be taking all the parking spots. And that's really what would happen, right? It would be literally a flip, a switch would flip because Hammonasset shut down, and then there would just be this backup all of a sudden. And so our thinking is, if you want to come to Madison for the day, you're welcome to come. You just got to get there early and be like, and buy your pass. But, by a certain time, we won't have any more passes available for non-residents. So that was kind of our thought process on that. And I'd be interesting to hear what the commission thinks. We're trying to figure out the right number where we aren't, the last thing we want to do is like tell people there's no non-resident passes left and have an empty parking lot, right? And this would also be a policy that would only be in effect for Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and holidays, because that's when we have the problem. So on a Monday or a Tuesday, we don't anticipate needing that cap. But I think it's also something that we're trying to learn from our experience. We have now, Scott spent some time looking at the data. How many non-resident passes do we actually sell every year? And then typically these people end up going to Surf Club anyway. So if you only sell the passes at Surf Club, which is where we have the most parking and probably the most, I think, attractive, facility for visitors. If you're going to come for the day to a new beach in Madison, you're going to want, the snack bar and the playground and all those types of things. So I think it'll be interesting to see if people buy a non-resident pass, do they actually buy it at the Surf Club and then drive all the way over to the smaller beach on the other side of town? And I think part of it is we'd like to observe that and monitor that and see, because I know this commission has talked about, do you take a beach like East Wharf or West Wharf and try to just keep that for residents only to ensure that residents have access, because there's so limited parking.
Have you run that proposal by the town attorney?
Excuse me?
Have you run that proposal by the town attorney?
Well, I'm not proposing that.
I mean, that option.
We've talked to the town attorney about this. And I think, once again, there's no, I will say there's no, clear line on any of this. A lot of this is just interpretation. And I think that, in terms of limiting the amount of non-resident passes, I think, if we put it at 5, obviously that might be a different situation, though, as if we're truly showing that we're being welcoming. I do think there's a little bit of a, probably a, I don't know what the right word is for it, but a perception in the community that, all the people in the parking lots are all out of towners. I heard a lot of that last summer. And so this is a way to really track that. And I think we can monitor that. And so, if you have 500 parking spots and you're only, allowing, 100 or 200 of those to go to non-residents, then the reality is that that's not a fact. You might be turning away some residents, because if you fill up, you fill up. But the reality is that most of those parking spots are going to residents, right?
Exactly.
So I think this is where I think, I'm hopeful we're not going to be dealing with the same situation. We're going to have a problem on 4th of July, always, right? That's always going to be a problem. And probably on a couple of really hot weekends over the summer. I'm hopeful we're not going to be having the chaos that came with, Hammonasset shutting down on a Thursday afternoon and literally hundreds of cars of people looking for somewhere else to go. So I think though go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, well, from 2015 to 2020, 19 we have to throw out. We had a high of 46 guest tags sold to non-residents, and that was on July 3rd.
Yeah, so
So
46,
it's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's not overwhelming, and you look at the numbers, and there's more resident guest tags that are being sold versus non-resident.
And that's also something that what we're going to do is differentiate the tag.
Right.
So that you
Exactly.
can actually identify somebody who is truly somebody that just came to Madison to want to try out our beach versus somebody
Exactly.
who's having a family event and they have 20 guests coming,
Yep.
right? And they buy, guest passes for their family. So those will be, we charge those at a discounted price, and they're going to look different than the non-resident guest pass,
Right.
that somebody would purchase who just, came from, maybe couldn't get into Hammonasset or just decided they wanted to try Madison for the day.
I mean, definitely our resident guest tags are higher than the non-resident that are just popping in. Yeah, I think I sent all of you that information as far as totals go of what the guest tags were. I mean, last year we sold 200, and even though we were not open for non-residents on the weekend, we sold 232 resident tags and 180 non-resident during the week.
Wait,
I think you all have that.
Yeah,
But those were, okay, so 232 passes were sold by 2 Madison residents having family come to join them.
that's in total over the summer.
Over the summer.
Yeah.
Yep.
it's
And then
about
there were
25%.
And 180 non-residents came in between Monday and Thursday.
Scott, is it about 25% of the total passes sold are sold to non-residents?
Vince, I didn't go to the seasonal
Okay,
comparison.
I thought
I
that's,
mean, because the seasonal is Madison residents only, so. These were just non-resident guest tags and non-resident guest
But
tags.
it's interesting because if you add all that up.
Yep.
And all those people came, we have 700 parking spots.
Yep.
Right. So it wouldn't even fill up all the
It's-
parking spots that we have if they all came on the same day.
Exactly, and we were compressed last summer. And we did that purposely.
Yeah.
To restrict everything, and
so can I just ask a question? So Peggy, so 10 o'clock on July the 4th, just to track us through how this is going to work. 10 o'clock on July 4th, Hammonasset closes down.
Mhm.
We now have a parking lot, and it's almost full. How are we going to communicate to those people that are coming from Hammonasset that we only have a certain amount of spots open?
So
have to
the
coordinate
town
that.
is in the process of purchasing
Oh.
our own message boards because we've never had our own. We've had
Great.
to borrow. And they're actually
beg, borrow, and steal.
Yeah, they're actually, which I'm trying to get these purchased so we have them by May. They're actually Wi-Fi capable, so you can update the message real time. So whereas the old ones, you actually have to go to the message board and like program it. So it's not like you can just quickly do it. So part of, I think, the planning process is with the police department and everything is signage and how we can alert people to those specific. We're not going to have a board post it, every day all summer, but for peak times, we would want those positioned and to provide that information. And then obviously we would also try to put things out on Facebook and Twitter. We're still
Okay.
going to have a backup, Vince. It's just
Yeah, no,
reality.
I'm just trying to work it through in terms of
Yeah.
find how it's going to work,
Right. I mean, and I'm
That link
guessing.
between Hammonasset.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that, there's only going to be a few times where, we would hit that. And it's going to be around the holidays. But, this summer is probably going to be a hybrid, right? It's not going to be
Mhm.
like the way it used to be, because you still are going to have people not traveling as much. A lot of kids, maybe their parents don't want them to send them to sleepaway camp. More people are going to be doing staycations still this summer, but I don't think it's going to be like last year either, where it was just insane.
I think
But
we're, I
that,
think we're, I think we're just hoping that the state goes back to regular capacity.
yeah. And we'll still have problems and issues, and that's why we're trying to get ahead of it.
Yep.
And I think I talked about the last meeting, we are trying to coordinate other ways for the state to accommodate those visitors in Hammonasset by offering ancillary parking opportunities
Right.
with a shuttle service or something like that. So if they can't get a parking spot at Hammonasset, then how do we find other places for them to park where they can still visit Hammonasset, which is why they came down to Madison, right? So those are some of the ideas that we're talking with them about. There's also the whole Salt Meadow situation, because people are using that. So is there a safer way to have people walk from Salt Meadow into Hammonasset, something that's safe, that's marked? Because the reality is, although we don't like having that park being overrun by people who aren't there to enjoy the park, they're just there to use it as a parking lot. It does provide some relief to people to East Wharf, right? Because that's what we found is people would then go from Hammonasset. The first on GPS is East Wharf, and so, so I think that's kind of. And then we went through a lot of other operational discussion about, renewals and when stickers are required and all these policy kind of issues. And what I'd like to do is have a public hearing again, like we did last year, although it was right before the pandemic hit. And so it kind of had to throw the whole playbook out the window, but, at least, going out there and talking about, here's what it's going to look like. Here's what the staffing is. And, here's what the pricing is. And here's how we envision things working and try to be out there ahead of it a little bit. The good thing is we'll be fully staffed. And I think despite how difficult last summer was, we managed to get through it, so I'd like to hope that was the worst case scenario and that this might be a step up from that.
I think we're going to be good.
Good. I like the optimism.
Certainly have practice.
I got a good staff coming back. So, 95% are coming back from last year.
Lifeguards coming back?
95%.
Lifeguards?
All of them.
Great.
Yeah.
So, we'll have full complement of lifeguards, some new, and then of the other staff, it's about 95% that are returned. So it's only a few new hires. So I think we're going to be in a good place. Everybody knows the routine.
And I think
be a nice transition for Austin.
Yeah, I know. Well, just imagine if last year you took over Austin.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't have been good.
Although that's what I had to do, right?
Yep.
But and I will say the surf club office, I think, was a great addition to providing that public service to people at the beach.
Absolutely.
And the online sales worked well, and so now you can just renew online, and that's going to be unlocked. I think it's the 14th or the 12th.
Next week.
Yeah, so you can actually just go online and click renew and pay for your new sticker, and it'll get mailed to you.
Yep.
And then if you're a new resident or never bought a pass before, then you do have to go in person, or you can do it by mail. So we still haven't quite figured out how to do all the validation for that first time buyer yet online. But that's something that we're going to work on tackling. But I think right now, how many, there was 3,000, well, so like 4,000 people can just go on and click
Yep,
you know,
to
now.
renew.
So we shouldn't see the lines and queues of people trying to get those beach stickers. So,
And if they go online and can document everything, it's a snapshot of what they have. And like we said, you can have your receipt and it's good for 10 days. And then you just you go to the surf club and they'll wave you through and you go to the surf club office and they'll issue the sticker. So
And Scott, that starts next week, the passes, did you say?
we're hoping that next week I met with Rita Bolin today and I think we're ready to go live next week, where people will be able to renew online whatever they bought last year. And then we'll send it. What ends up happening is like, okay, like Vince, you have 2 cars, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so whatever you bought last year, you click renew, pay. Okay.
Yep.
And then we end up seeing that on our end as past sold. We reprint that receipt that you have,
Okay.
and then we have to enter in the pass number in our system. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 5 for you
You have
and
to
Gail.
is this manually done?
Yeah, on our end. Okay, but it's really quick
Okay.
because we do a cash journal every day for receipts and what have you. So, I mean, that's what we were doing all last year. So, it's no biggie.
I mean, there's a lot of, there's back office work, but at least it's focused back office work versus having lines of people waiting.
Right,
to have
and
it
then
done, you know, so,
they'll go out in the mail.
yeah.
You know,
And then you have
and
10
here's
days
your
to use your
sticker.
receipt until you get your sticker, or you
Yep.
can just print out your receipt from your online purchase.
Correct.
Great.
So, I think it went pretty well last year, to be honest. I don't think anybody had problems. And then a lot of people bought by mail because there was
Right.
this fear about, you know, with COVID was going on. I don't want to say fear, but just like people were really excited to think of something positive. So they all went out and got their beach stickers by mail.
Well, they're hitting us already.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So that's,
you really don't need it right now, but
Yeah.
we'll get you.
I know. So that's kind of, you know, Pam, it looks like you had a question, or you were.
I was just curious about, so it sounds like residents can purchase online, but non-residents cannot. They have to do it at the office, either at
Officer at the surf club.
or at the surf club. Okay.
And non-residents can't get a sticker anyway, so.
Right. Well, I was just wondering if there was any kind of online capability for non-residents, but at this point, it sounds like there is not.
Not right now.
Non-residents would just be a daily pass.
Right.
We've talked about that, but I think it creates complications about if somebody buys it in advance, and then what if the weather's bad, or, you know, yeah. So this way it's just on, you know, and that's a thought about advanced purchase, considering we're limiting the number of ones that we're selling. But I think we kind of decided, you know, our experience shows that, you know, we're probably not going to run out anyway, right, of non-resident passes, because we're probably going to be allowing the sale of more than what we've actually sold in the past. So I think the important thing is, you know, we started tracking things last summer at the gates, just tick marks about people who were coming in, and we got a lot of good data that helped us when we had our discussions with the state. I think if we can do that this summer, we'll get our arms around more about, you know, the who is coming to the Madison beaches and where are they parking, you know. So we're going to try to track as much as we can.
Scott, when you sign up for the pass, do you have emails? Do they provide emails to you on that form, on the sign up?
For renewal?
For anybody. I mean,
well, renewal, if you're renewing a pass that you had last year, you have a RecTrack account.
But it has an email on it.
Yeah, I mean, then
Okay,
you
so could
submit it, and then end up getting that receipt,
Right.
and then we establish the tag number.
So you
But
literally
that's
have
on the sticker.
5,000. Right. So you,
And then it'll go back to you.
Right.
So whatever you purchased last year,
right,
you can, when you go online, I want to renew my pass,
right.
whatever you bought last year, you go click, click, click. Those are the ones that I want to renew. Check out.
Right. So, but what I'm saying is we have a record of the emails of people, of folks that have signed on for passes. Is it possible?
Everybody in Rec Track has a primary email address, which is their
Can we,
identifier.
is it possible to use that email as a form of communication to those people that buy passes?
Well, we'll be sending out a Rec Connect.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called a Rec Connect, and we'll be sending something out to all the pass holders from last year, saying it's live. You're
Okay.
able to go and renew.
Great.
Yeah, they'll get a blast, and then we'll also be
Yep.
doing, what I'm trying to do is pull in that database into our Madison alert system as well.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing how we only have maybe 2,000 people subscribed to the general town information, but we have, it's got to be 6,000.
6,000 passes.
Yeah. So it's a huge, but then it gets into how the accounts work in terms of our Madison alert system and everything else. But what I'd like to do when he does this and I'm glad you brought this up because I meant to send you an email about this, is part of that Rec Connect. I wanted to have a little thing on the bottom, sign up for Madison alerts. Like, so every time somebody gets something from Beach and Rec or whatever, to also have that on the bottom so you can follow everything happening in town.
Okay.
And because that requires a separate sign in, and account setup to do that. So,
Well, a lot of people are signing up for Civic Plus and thinking that they're
getting Madison
registering
alert
for our.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we got to get this kind of sorted better. But I think, I meant to email you and Rita about that, if she can put a whole thing on the bottom of that and just
Yep.
have it be as part of everything that goes out through your system. It's just always
Sure.
at the bottom. Sign up for Madison Alert, sign up for,
Yep.
but I
We
think,
can do that.
and
We
most
can do that.
parents, most people are familiar with this because their kids, if you have kids, they're doing summer programs and things like
Right.
that, or they're already in the system, they all have the account set up. So this is just like one other thing tagged onto their Beach and Rec account is the beach passes.
Yep.
So that's kind of, we're working through all these operational issues, and certainly I talked to Rob about that he might spend a few minutes at the public hearing talking about some of the initiatives that the commission is doing, in terms of going forward, and some of the things that you're going to be looking at post this season for changes possibly next year. Because I think the other thing I wanted to make sure at this hearing, and I was talking to Austin, is that I think there's a lot of opportunities to, improve programming and just, try some new things. But right now we're going through a transition period. So I don't want people to think that, and also that to make them feel secure that what they had before, we're not doing a lot of disruptions right now. This is going to be just a smooth transition, making it a nice summer, but that we're looking at new ideas and, maybe talking about there'll be more survey work coming out from the community to get input and talk about that like those types of operational changes that people might think be happening with the merger of the two departments. Those are more likely to, happen next year, not this summer.
Peggy, is it your intention, or would you like us to, this idea of the dedicated parking on weekends, where they need to go buy a pass, they're open to all. Is that for this season, or are you looking for us to discuss it and give you our thoughts on it?
I think we could implement that this season because it doesn't change anything except how many we actually sell of those non-resident passes. And I think maybe the goal would be to put some sort of cap on it, but take this summer as let's get the experience about what that right number is, right? Because I think as we learned when we were doing the capacity things about how many people could be on the beach, right? There were so many variables and you kind of sometimes had to make a judgment call. So I think it would be good to know that we will be limiting them. But my thought is we should try to implement that this summer because I think it is going to still be really busy. But I welcome your thoughts on that.
Peggy, also, do you have a sense of the date that you'd like to do this public hearing?
I was hoping to do this.
4/21.
Yeah, I'd like to get it done in April because, we could do it either the 21st or the 28th. So I don't know if there is, oh no, I can't because there's a bubble. Yeah. I could do it at 6 o'clock. We could do it 6 o'clock on the 28th or the 21st. The 28th is the Board of Finance public hearing, I think.
Probably.
It's starting at 7. But this could easily be, if we could do it even earlier at 5:30 or 5. So if you guys have a preference, I could do either. I just would need to make sure it's earlier on the 28th. The 21st, I am pretty much, any time would work. I'm actually away next week. So I guess having an extra week wouldn't be a bad thing to get this prepared. So
Any conflicts for the 21st for the group?
No, I'm good.
So I think, Peggy, work to your schedule. I think maybe after the dinner hour, you might get better attendance and it gives us, a couple weeks to promote it, but maybe we target the 21st and it'll either be 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. We'll defer to you.
okay. All right. I will.
If it's the 21st, 7 would be better. I do have an earlier issue.
Well, it's funny because I'm picking Wednesday, but actually we could do it. I have to double check with Lauren, but we could also, the 27th is a possibility. Your meetings are Tuesdays anyway, right? So,
Yeah.
so why don't I come back with a couple of proposals? I'll double check with her, but I'm just thinking I had really wanted it that week of the 19th, but now realistically knowing that I'm leaving and coming back, I don't want to be sitting on the airplane doing PowerPoint slides, but
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be good.
yeah, I don't think my kids would enjoy that. But maybe the week of the 26th, I'll look at either maybe it's the 27th because the board is meeting the 26th, the night of the 26th, and then maybe the Tuesday the 27th would be good. So maybe I'll target that, and I'll send an email out to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good for me.
Great.
Okay.
Any questions for Peggy? Anything else that you guys have?
Peggy, you think we're going to have the 4th of July parade from the Exchange Club?
No.
I would love to. I just, I doubt it's going to happen just because of the size and the numbers. But this is where, to be honest, Vince, we're in a really kind of precarious situation, after the executive orders expire, right?
Yeah.
So
A lot of folks have been asking about it.
yeah, I know. And I think that, it's kind of a situation where we want to be promoting good behavior and public health. And where are we going to be? Are we going to be herd immunity? And I think that is partly what will drive a lot of those kinds of decisions.
Okay.
So if you talk to, the emergency operations team, no, because they've been hearing that the state would somehow require us to have a social distancing plan in place. And how you would do that with a parade, I don't know. The fireworks might be a little different because, people can observe that from other places. I know it's that's tough. Still working on them, but
I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, but unfortunately I don't have an answer right now, but we're clearly thinking about it and debating it and trying to just figure out where we're going to be by July. So
And we have that plus the Rotary wants to run their carnival again.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, everybody's been on hold for so long, but we got to be careful.
Yeah, and I think some of the how the the legislature would make, if they would be making formal recommendations, we just don't know yet. So we'll hopefully know here by early May. I think we'll have a better direction on where it's going.
And into that, I think where we're at, Vince and everybody else, it's like there's no, and I'm going out on a limb, there's no real clear-cut guidance.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to the towns. It's like I'm taking Sam DeVera's stance. It's like, tell us what you want, and it's every town is doing something different, and they got to make the stance saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how you do it, and done. So everybody's on the same playing field of everything.
Well, yeah,
it's hard.
I think we've all learned that the virus doesn't know borders, right? So we try to have
correct.
consistency across towns.
Yep.
And that has happened up until recently. We're just in a very different territory now. And I think, with the vaccination acceleration and the target of having herd immunity by May, people might question, why wouldn't we be able to hold these kinds of events? But remember, kids aren't going to be vaccinated.
Right.
Until the earliest, the fall. So you're still going to have the 16 and under population unvaccinated. So now they're more reduced risk, and it's a very different kind of virus for them versus the older population. But that's where we kind of came out with our programming, that we're going to continue to have social distancing and mask wearing, and keep sizes small in groups of 10, because the kids aren't going to be vaccinated. At least the staff will be, but the kids won't be. So, you don't want people concerned that their children are going to be transmitting within our program. So, so that's kind of my update. Any other questions?
Thanks, Peggy. I think this is good insight and direction, so we appreciate it.
Okay, great. All right. So I guess I'll leave you now, or do you have other things you need me for on your agenda, or?
Well, you're always welcome to join. You can sit through the next 90 minutes. So
Okay.
Have a great trip, Peggy.
Okay.
90 minutes.
yes.
Yeah.
90 minutes.
I'll leave that to Scott and Austin.
It really depends on how long you go, Scott.
I'm done.
All right. Thanks a lot,
Thank you,
guys.
Peggy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So the next item is the director's report. We'll go through department updates, a budget status, and then the data that Scott covered, and then the projects update, and then we'll move into old business. So Scott, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Department's running okay. We're out of 5 cylinders. We're working on 4. But we have Carrie has got a lot of summer programs already up online, and people are registering like crazy. So because they're looking for summer camps. So that's a good thing. And she is kind of taking over, not taking over, but working with Linda's instructors to try to get their programs up and posted, because Linda's still out. But so Bower Park programs, summer camp or summer escape, all those programs are getting lit up and people are responding online. Grounds, we have all fields are lined out. They're now open. Even though the soil temperatures are still down, we felt the need that we need to let them go, because we're not getting a lot of growth right now, because soil temperature at Salt Meadow was 40 think 47 degrees, and we should be at 53 for growth. So I've warned all the sports groups to stay away from the goal creases so we don't get down to bare dirt, because we're not going to have the regrowth right away. But we're dealing with that. All the bathrooms, we've got them all set. We're waiting for the water company to turn on the seasonal meters. Surf Club itself is a mess, as we lost the neutral on Eversource's line, which you have the positive, negative, and the neutral. So the power went really wacky, and it ended up frying the furnace controls to the building. And so we had to get those all replaced, and that ended up into another thing. And then that was the cold snap. So any water in the pipes froze. So we have a bunch of holes in the ceiling. Most of the fixtures in the bathrooms are shot and in the process of being replaced. So we're trying to get the building back up and running so we can start hosting programs and whatnot. Gardens are open. People have renewed. We're accepting new. And boat racks went well. There was some adjustment, not really adjustment to, but reaction to the cost increase, especially for those that have racks that they only had one boat, where it went from 90 to 150. And we're trying to work with those people to partner them up. But for the majority, they renewed and understood where we were coming from. So all those racks will be up and in place prior to when people can put their boats on the rack.
So Scott, where do we stand then on, I'm sorry.
Where do we stand on what?
Well, we had something like 150 people that were waiting for racks. And
we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Because we just ended, the renewal period was up to the 31st.
Okay.
Of March, and then we give a few days because mail has not been the greatest. So we'll be going through those probably next week and figuring out what we have open.
What do you think? You think we're going to be all right?
I think Surf Club definitely. I think East Wharf, I don't think we're going to have a lot of movement. That's the biggest wait list, and there's no room to expand there. So, I mean, the biggest area is the Surf Club.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 108 plus, so it's like 150, 160 racks at Surf Club.
And the new racks are in, right? The new, what you just?
Yeah, we have Charlie Island delivering wood chips for that area because it was a depression area where the K racks were. So we're trying to build that area up so we can place the new racks on top.
Yeah.
But they'll be ready for when people are supposed to be able to put their boats on the rack, which is May 5th, I think.
Great.
Is the rental season, but they'll be all set. So, but other than that, there were not a lot, but there were a few that were questioning the price increase. And we just said you can share, and we can try to partner you up with somebody, but you know, this is the cost. I mean, we can, but we did a survey throughout the state, and this is the reasonable cost. We haven't increased since 2007. So that's that. Bathrooms should be opening up hopefully as soon as the water company turns on the services. So we can get rid of the portalets. Concession stand, bathrooms, and the concession stand, which is attached to the surf club building, may be delayed until we figure out where and if there are any more leaks after they replace all the fixtures, because we haven't been able to fully charge the system yet. So that's that.
You know, Scott, as far as updates, and this might come under projects, the West Wharf bathroom, you and I discussed that. Is that on your agenda to talk on the projects or no?
Well, we can talk about it. I mean, I think I know Peggy's left the meeting, but there's a funding opportunity, American Rescue, where we may be able to jumpstart the replacement of that bathroom for the community. It's in capital improvement project to replace the facility, but this may jumpstart it where we can replace it faster through governmental funding. So
just a note for the commission. I think the group should be aware, to Scott's point, it may something for the commission to take a look at. I think Scott will be working, I know he will be, with the beach hotel, and just there's some coordination will be considered so that we do we meet the needs, to Scott's point, to the community.
Scott, the concerning thing is this, I mean, just to go back to one of your points, the surf club condition. I mean, is that going to be a problem for this summer for the Memorial Day opening?
no.
You'll be ready by Memorial Day, you think?
Yep, I have a construction company, Munger Construction Company, doing all the repairs, and my first rental is May 23rd.
No, I mean the surf club itself. I mean the bathrooms and, you know, John's scenario, being able to open up the concession stand.
Yep.
I mean, is
it'll be happening within the next few weeks.
Okay.
So he won't be opening up until after that. And that's an isolated line, which we blow out. That full building gets blown out with air compressor. So we just have to reattach once we're ready, and we can recharge the bathrooms and the concession stand. So
Scott, could I ask a question about Salt Meadow?
Yep.
I'm sorry if I didn't hear you mention this, but I was just wondering about the pavilion and bathroom that was planned.
yep, that we received all the bids, and I have to go back to the drawing board because we're way over budget. So what I'm advocating, and I have to talk to Board of Selectmen to be able to go back to the two people that bid for the project. I'm looking at a waterless restroom system that is installed within a day once we receive it, and then a pavilion construction. So I would have to be going back to the two bidders to see what their cost would be to for the footing slab, and then erect the pavilion. Because the restrooms that I'm looking for West Wharf, Salt Meadow, and Rockland are concrete, and they're waterless. They're double bathrooms, 1,000-gallon tanks for each bathroom. So it's good for up to 15,000 uses before it would be full. So I think it's a good option, but I just have to get permission to go and reach out to those bidders to renegotiate what their bid price would be for erecting the pavilion. And then I'd be within budget. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes.
So Pam, is the other part of the question, what does this do to the pavilion for this year? I mean, is it off the?
Mhm.
the plans for the summer?
I don't think it's off the mark. I just have to, I can probably get the pavilion in, but I have to have those contractors give me a new price. Because it wouldn't include electrical and all that they were gonna have to do with the proposed plan, because that included the bathrooms,
Mhm.
where I'm taking the bathrooms out of the equation. So there's not the plumbing or the fixtures or anything like that.
Hmm.
Make sense? I mean,
It
would
does,
be
and I guess
kind of two standalone things,
Mhm.
where
Is
I would
Salt
be
Meadow
going
good
to
with
the
that?
contractors to say, okay, we want the pavilion in, you need to put in footings, slab, and erect the pavilion, and you're done.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
the
it.
Salt Meadow committee, they're good with that?
Yep,
Yeah.
Okay.
And
they
I'm-
understood it, and I think it's environmentally, I think it makes sense instead of having a full-blown septic system where we have tanks and we have galleries, and it's like, okay, well, if I just have holding tanks that get pumped out, we're not impacting the environment at all.
Right.
And they're
Pam, did you have
all,
a comment?
the bathrooms are solar powered for venting and yeah, venting and lighting. They're solar powered, so.
Pam, did you have a comment?
Not a comment so much, I guess one of the things I was wondering is that I know that this had been in the pipeline for a while, and
Yep.
and is the difference in funding what you thought you could do with the amount of money you had, did it change over time because things have increased in price, or was it just under budgeted in the first place? Do you
I don't think it was under budgeted. It's just prices escalated due to demand.
I see.
And I mean, the product that we're getting is cedar forest products. I mean, it's all wood.
Right.
And those we've seen, for, if you look at a sheet of plywood, it's escalated exponentially for people to do something. I mean, it's supply and demand.
Right.
So the price went way up on that. And then, the pricing for, when we got the quotes for the building, as submitted, it's all the or copper piping, everything that's all going through the roof. As far as plumbing goes. So I think this is the best approach, and I'm trying to bring it down under budget, and I think it'll go in fairly quickly if I can get it approved. As I said, the restroom it gets trucked in, and they dig the hole, they install it, and it's done in a day. So the longest is setting the footings and pouring the slab for the pavilion.
Mhm.
And that comes in on a truck, and then it has to get erected. So
Thank you.
I'm trying.
So for the updates, Thank you, Scott. We'll move on to budget. Just a quick overview. How you think we're going to finish up on the fiscal year? Anything we should be aware of?
I think we're doing all right. We're at 92% expended. Cable went through the roof. And I adjusted with Comcast to renegotiate for speed rates and trying to lower things down. I think that's the only account that we're really over that's within our grasp. The other ones are salary accounts. So is it basically Beach and Rec Cable, which is 3/4 of the way down under rental custodial on the spreadsheet. We're gonna be over on that.
And what about disposal recycling?
That they haven't applied this special appropriation that we got for the contracts, which was well over what we anticipated, and it was approved, but hasn't been posted
Okay.
yet. So we're solid on that. That'll be in the positive.
Good.
Any other questions? So I think the data, I saw that Vince, you had commented, Scott shared any questions regarding the data on the attendance in the parking. We'll make sure that's in the minutes. I think that was insightful for any residents that tune in or watch this later, just to understand. The high of non-resident guests was 44, and that was on July 3rd. 46 actually, 46 was the high. So on any one day. Any other
And that
questions
was
or
it.
comments?
And that was in 2016, so.
Mhm. Okay. Scott, thank you for that. I know Peggy requested it. It was an outcome from last week as well. And then finally, from a project standpoint, you gave us a couple updates, Salt Meadow, the update on the kayak racks. We talked about West Wharf bathroom. Any questions that anyone has for Scott, or any updates that Scott or Austin, anyone else wants to provide?
The kayak boat launch that we just did last year, which was, you did a great job on, are you going to put a sign up there? Somehow communicating that's there, that launch?
Yeah, I have to determine what I'm gonna say.
How about boat launch this way, arrow?
Yeah. That might work.
You know,
Yep. Yeah, I have to
Yep,
do
good.
that. That's on my list.
okay, is that what you do? Or is that the highway department does that?
That's me.
That's you?
For Austin.
We did a great, it's there. It's a great, it's a great
Yeah,
spot.
we did. We just have to lead them into it. I agree.
Okay.
Yep. The only other thing I have is we have 2 benches that we have to install up at Rockland by the playground, and I'm trying to work in-house to try to expand and reorganize the parking lot on Route 79 to allow for more cars, more organized fashion. So we're working on that. So.
We still on projects?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I hate to bug everybody and take up your time, but how are we doing on the tennis pickleball court, resurface, redo?
That was put on hold for another year.
Was that was part of the process though, Scott, to put it
Yep.
on hold, or okay?
Yep.
So
'cause
Vince, that's
we resurfaced where the cracks were, and where the pickleball courts are, we relined all of those and added the additional court.
Right, but there was a project that was going to redo, I mean, all of that. They were gonna expand the 6 pickleball courts and redo the tennis courts. That whole project has been put on hold for another year.
Not 6, there were not going to be 6 pickleball courts. There were going to be 5, I think,
Okay,
total. But yeah, the project was put on hold, figuring that the town had other needs rather than doing that. So it was pushed out.
okay. So just so I can tell, 30, 40 people, this is what we're talking about, 2023, 2024, or we don't know.
I'd have to look at the CIP, Vince, to
Okay.
see where we pushed it.
I can ask you that offline. Not a problem.
Yep.
Okay.
So Rob, if I may, does anybody have any questions for me? I know I'm here if anybody has any, whether it's now or offline, if there's any questions that you think I can answer or just informational on anything, please let me know.
Join in, Austin. I don't know why you're still at the office.
Me neither.
Okay. Well, Scott, thank you for going through that and give us an update on the current state. A couple items for follow up on, and good. Thank you, Austin. I think it supports you in your transition. A couple hot items to pick up on. So good. So if there's no further questions on the director's report, we'll move into old business. And the topic for old business was one item, and this has to do with parking and non-resident specifically. And at the time it was location. I think we got feedback from Peggy that and I would echo this. We want to be open and welcoming people to our beaches, and I believe we are. And if we don't have a close of Hammonasset, we really don't anticipate a lot of issues. So part of the discussion is also the number of non-resident passes we might want to put out there, and do we want to sell some in advance? Again, it was all designed with, could we collect data? Could we understand what we would expect? I did mention at the outset that, Pam and Vince have been kind of working on this and kind of just as some other voice to make sure that they carry some of the discussion. Pam, you and I spoke. So, Pam, do you want to set this up a little bit? I think what we should do, given the time, it's 8:09 now, we'll plan to discuss this topic for 20 or 30 minutes and see where we're at, and we'll move on from there. Pam, I'll turn it over to you if you want to kind of set it up and lead some of the discussion.
Well, I'm really delighted that Vince is back with us because I'm sure he has a lot to add to the conversation. I think that after our last discussion at the last meeting, the thing that really came to my mind, especially looking at the Madison Beach and Recreation Department season parking sticker guide, we already have it up for 2021. The Q&A, what it made me realize is just how I think complex we are making it for ourselves. And I guess that if I was going to redo the discussion last time, I would have, or if I was going to go back to the goals, I think the one goal that I would focus on is simplify things for residents, simplify things for non-residents, make sure complications our communications are very clear, especially on the website. I think right now it's a little muddled, that you shouldn't have to wade through 3 pages to kind of understand what we're offering to people. But I also want to make sure that it is simple for the Beach and Recreation Department, for the staff, in terms of executing it, administering it, enforcing it. So I think that would be my biggest goal that would kind of top all of others. It sounds like one of the things Peggy wanted us to discuss tonight is what, coming up with a number in terms of if we were going to limit the amount of non-resident passes on any given day, what would that number be? And just, you know, thank you for providing the data that we received. And it sounds like if we said 10% of what we have at the surf club would be, you know, that would give us 50 spaces, which sounds like 50 spaces would be enough. But do we want to have more than that available? You know, I guess that's one thing I would really like to hear from everyone is what number they think would be, would make sense in terms of limiting parking, placing any type of limit on the number of daily passes for non-residents.
Thanks, Pam, for kicking that off. So I do think, you know, as far as making a decision tonight, you know, I'm in favor of that. At the same time, I don't know that we need to make one tonight. We might say that the Beach and Rec Commission will determine a set number of non-resident passes. And, you know, I think that might be something that is a decision in itself, based on hearing from Peggy.
If I may, Ryan, I just want to also add, you know, when Pam and I had our meetings and discussions, you know, one of the things that occurred to me was that I thought Madison's, you know, beach policy was very, very open and I think welcoming to people. I think as if you looked at other towns, you know, and I'll call out Old Saybrook and I'll call out Greenwich and I'll call out Westport and other towns that restrict on the weekends non-residents coming into their beach. I think Madison has done an outstanding job in terms of welcoming folks with the pressure that Hammonasset brings to us. I think we've done a great job. I think Scott and his crew and the Beach and Rec folks have done a great job in terms of opening our beaches to the outside community. And I think the policy that we had before, which was the prices we had before, were certainly within. When Pam and I did the analysis, we're certainly within on the lower side, if you will, of what other towns were charging their non-residents. So I think, you know, I think we're in a good spot. I think that, you know, the recommendation of 10% is something I think that's fine with me. I think that's a good idea, but I just want to make the point that we've done a pretty good job, and we are very, very welcoming and very much open to having folks from out of town and non-residents come into our beach. So as opposed to other towns along the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
So we should
Sure.
recognize that and understand that. Fair, Pam? Is that fair?
I think it is fair. And I think that our current pricing for non-resident day passes is certainly better than our neighbors in Clinton. You know, we did make a recommendation in the summer of 2019 to go up to the same level as Clinton, but I'm glad that we're not, because I think we should keep it more affordable. And clearly the numbers, I don't think our numbers would indicate, I mean, except in the extreme circumstances when Hammonasset closes down during a pandemic, I don't think the numbers really warrant us being more restrictive, whether it's in pricing or the number of spaces that we allow. So
I think
MP, what
we
about-
were talking about 25, 20 and, oh man. $40 on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the holidays. And
Right.
then, so we were scaling back to what we were charging prior to COVID.
right.
And I believe, Austin, you can correct me, but we were talking between Austin, Peggy and I, we were talking about all the data, and we were looking at, you know, like maybe a max of 75. Right, Austin? Is that what we were talking about?
Correct.
75 passes for non-residents.
Which is 10% of our
Weekends.
spaces.
It's about 15, right?
Say what?
Is
Yeah.
about 15%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's fair given the numbers that we've seen over the years.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, a high of 46, and we're going to allow more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're in a good place. I mean, people do come down there. Yes. Do we have Madison residents say all these non-residents? Well, we have the data to show that, you know, it's not that many. Given the number of spaces that we have. Because I think a lot of the complaints that, well, they're definitely not from Madison, and because they're speaking Spanish or whatever. I mean, it's like we hear it all the time. These people aren't from here. They don't even know where the bathrooms are. It's like, well, they may be new residents.
That's right.
Just figuring things out. And
do you think it
this
would
year,
be
we're gonna have a
helpful?
lot of influx. Because houses have been selling really a lot. For people that are from New York or whatever, they're not gonna know our system until they get acclimated. And we do welcome them, but it's gonna, it's in everything, there's a learning curve of what's acceptable, what's not, what you can do, what you can't. So
So I'd like to get MP, just your perspective on this. So just if you have anything you want to offer, add, or if you,
Yeah, I think, something like a 15%, max on a weekend day is good. And with the understanding that those aren't going to be held, but if you reach that point, then the sales would stop.
right.
Right. My only concern is what, Peggy had mentioned in passing was perhaps making East and West Wharf residents only. And I think that is not a good idea. If you use the same percentages, 15% non-resident parking on those facilities, you are, in just by virtue of the fact that the lots are smaller, limiting it to 2 or 3 passes on, so it limits itself, especially if you're purchasing those passes at the surf club, and maybe the people aren't even going to make that trek once they are at the surf club. But to make it a policy that those are resident only, I think is not the best policy.
Dangerous
Declare.
waters.
Yes, thank you.
and so,
I was
and
going
I,
to say slippery slope, but I thought that wasn't the right metaphor for the beach. So you got it. Yeah, dangerous waters.
and I think that's why we're formally having the discussion, because I think, I agree with you, MP, that opens us up to take shots that, we don't have to take. I agree with Pam and with Peggy in saying that to be simple for our employees, to be simple for our residents, and simple for non-residents. I think clarity, I think about the logistics of trying to operationalize it, sending someone down to the surf club to buy a ticket, and they may stay there, but if they want to come back to another beach and they lose the spot, but the numbers are so small. I am concerned, and I've expressed this before, that West Wharf being the smallest lot, given the hotel, given hotel patrons, given what that turns into, right now, Monday through Friday, all non-residents are allowed to park anywhere, providing they have a day pass. I do think weekends and holidays only, to be able just to provide clarity to say weekends and holiday non-residents have the surf club, because it's the maximizing for parking. And I would just ask that the commission consider that for weekends and holidays, do we need to provide, or could we provide clarity on that? I think our fees right now, if I'm correct, Pam, after 5 o'clock, they're free for non-residents. You don't have to pay to get in as a non-resident.
Correct.
I think we need to think about, do we give the option for a season pass? If I'm a non-resident and I want to buy a season pass, it gives us the ability to understand our count. It also gives someone the ability to buy a season pass as a non-resident, not just a day pass. I mean, I think these are considerations. But I would agree with 15%. We were throwing out a higher number than that, but based on the data, I think 15%. MP, I love your comment, which is if we've reached a max capacity, then those spots are taken. But those would just be my thoughts that I think as a commission, we should probably rule in or rule out and be able to formally go to the Board of Selectmen and say, this is our position on parking. Everyone's invited to all of our beaches, but for parking, this would be our recommendation. Any reaction?
You want to make a motion?
No, I mean, I think Pam and I talked about this, like the easiest ways is you make a motion, have a discussion, you can put a motion out there that's a hard line, but Shane's not here. I
think it's a work in progress.
Yeah, I just think we need to be able to, can we say, if we come to next month's meeting with a motion, it would be a limit on some percent of parking. And I guess to poll the group right now, is there any tolerance for weekends and holidays, non-resident surf club only, or is that a consensus of no? Just weekends only, holidays?
Yeah. I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Because
Pam, Vince?
If only for the fact that then you're establishing two policies, and that could just be one, right? You're saying non-residents during the weekdays and residents only during the weekends and holidays on East and West. You don't need to do it because it limits itself if you're going by a percentage model.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have a bad perception issue as well, because it limits itself by virtue of the size of the parking lots.
Right. I think I agree with MP's suggestion, and I think in addition to that, I think we can always go back if we find that this doesn't work, we can always go back to that policy, to the restriction policy. But I think by limiting the number, I think we've done exactly what we want to do in terms of limiting the weekend passes and the non-resident passes on the weekend.
Right.
That to me makes
sense. I think in all fairness and perception, I think if somebody has to go down to the surf club,
yeah,
and they're a non-resident, they're gonna go, wow.
Yeah, it's a much better
facility. Why would I want to go anyplace else? I got a playground, I got a concession stand, it's a big beach, picnic area. Why would I want to go to someplace that doesn't have any of that?
Right. Yeah. It's an issue that will tend to take care of itself.
Correct.
That you don't want to create a bigger problem by declaring it a problem.
Right.
Yeah. Well said, MB.
Pam, do you have a comment?
No, I think that makes perfect sense, and I feel very comfortable with that position.
I mean, the seasonal passes, Rob, I think we need to discuss. I mean, because some communities allow non-resident seasonal, but they do have a cap.
Right.
On how many they sell. And then I think that may lead to confrontations.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I almost think the daily, and Austin, you can chime in. I think the daily is the way to continue with the non-resident.
I agree.
That's 40 years worth of
in the long
experience.
run. What?
I say you've got 40 years worth of experience on this. I think I'd take your suggestion.
I think 42 now.
Well, 42. I take that suggestion.
And Austin had 10 with me, so.
There you go. 50 years of experience.
So I just think I think we're better off with the non-resident daily.
Mhm.
And not venture into having them get a seasonal pass, because it's gonna just lead to confrontation.
Mhm.
And also, again, it makes two policies for the same thing.
Right.
Mhm.
It gets more complicated. And I think that for ease of administration, just having the day pass makes perfect sense to
Yep.
me.
Mhm.
I mean, we are identifying everything. I mean, Austin, Peggy and I talked about it, and the resident daily pass is gonna be one color,
Mhm.
and the non-resident is gonna be a completely different animal, where it's
I would just suggest that it doesn't use the words.
no, they're daily hang tags.
All right, but
It's
So
color
but they're
coded.
just gonna be,
if you're
colored different.
non-resident,
Yeah.
what we have is we have a backstock of the scratch off ones
Mhm.
that we had for a couple of years.
mhm,
So you scratch off the month and the day.
Yeah.
And those are going to be the ones that we sell to non-residents. And then the Madison guest passes are just, it's the plain green one.
mhm.
So. I mean, so it's just clearly, so we know how many, and we're doing it that way because we're gonna have, if we're doing 15%, we'll have that amount at the
Mhm.
surf club gate for non-residents. And then, like MP, you came down, yeah, I have friends coming in, I want to buy them guest tags.
Yeah.
You get the resident guest tag.
Mhm.
So it's not taken out of that mix.
Right. And then it's also tied to the rate and not
Correct.
to,
Correct.
So we would never limit the resident guest pass.
Nope.
Right.
Nope. And they have been high, but that's the residents' right to have family
Yeah.
and friends come in to enjoy the beach. Right,
Would
Vince?
it be helpful, you think, for
I'm with you,
perception
Scott.
wise
Yep.
to
I've got,
publicize after the weekend, to publicize how many non-resident tags were sold each weekend to sort of dispute any negative commentary that's coming from residents that,
great idea.
it's full of non-residents? Is that, I don't know
Well,
how
we-
difficult that would be.
No, we keep a running tab of everything. It would just be a matter of having Rita post it.
but again, not as its own category.
Right.
You would have to also include resident guest
Madison.
daily passes
Yeah.
and, whatever other relevant, you don't want to
Yeah.
just pull that one line and put it up somewhere.
Right, but
So-
don't forget that the Madison included in that the Madison guest tags, are the inns.
Yep.
So like Tidewater and Beach, there's 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
They buy tags
Yeah.
for their residents.
Yeah.
For the weekend. So they're technically non-residents, but as a Madison business, they're allowed to have guests,
Mhm.
which were I think it was 1 or 2 per bedroom.
Mhm.
That's the way the hotel motel pass system worked. So like Tidewater Inn will come in and buy 20 tags that they have on on hand. They're all prepaid, so we mark them prepaid, then whoever's in the inn, they want to go to the beach, they get handed the tag, they go down to the beach, and then it's activated. As a.
Can you clarify one thing? The parking next to the hotel is town parking on both sides?
They, before where our gate guard hut is?
Yes. No, before the gate guard.
Yeah, before the hut. Yes, that is municipal parking.
On both
Two-
sides, correct?
2 hour,
On
Yes.
both sides.
yes.
And that's how many, you know how many spots that is? Maybe 20, 30?
Probably
14 to
18 maybe.
16, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it is owned by the town, correct? And it's 2 hours?
2 hour parking, it's posted.
Okay.
Who's monitoring that?
was gonna be my next
Not
question.
us.
Yeah,
Part of
and I
the,
think,
the spaces that are towards the hotel are partially owned by them
Oh,
because it's not all of town property. So
okay.
we're trying to work that all out.
Okay.
so Vince, it's a fair question. I'll let you know that Peggy had mentioned to Austin, myself, and Scott, I think Dave Anderson, that there was a meeting that was going to be held, future state, in short order with the hotel, just to kind of touch base on a couple things. So fair question. We probably need to, just consider that on management and that. And I don't think the police are coming down to inspect those, and we can't mark tires, and we've discussed it. So I think it's more of a, until it's monitored.
Yeah, you can't physically mark anymore. It has to be it has to be virtual, which is the way that some of the parking companies do it, is they take a picture
Yeah.
of the valve stem on a tire. And if it hasn't changed since they came back, when they come back, then they know it's been there longer. But you can't physically chalk a tire anymore.
So let's do this. We're a little over 20 minutes into this discussion, and the point of the discussion specifically on parking and non-resident was, and I'm really thankful that we had the discussion we did, because it's on record that we have discussed this, we've reviewed it, we're taking into consideration our residents, simplicity. I think MP and Pam, you brought up great points that keep the process and the policy simple, and obviously Scott and Austin with your experience. So it sounds like the two things we just want to confirm where we kind of landed on is that there'll be limited non-resident pass volume.
Weekends.
Now that number is to be on weekends only. Is that correct?
Weekends and holidays.
Weekends and holidays.
Weekends and holidays. Okay. Otherwise, non-residents come on in.
Yep.
The volume is to be determined, or did we want to say 15% of total parking spots?
I think 15 falls in line with, the 75 at the surf club, and it's a solid number that people can hold on to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good with that. And then we also determined that daily passes are the way to go for non-residents. If you're going to come here as a non-resident, you have to purchase at the surf club.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Or, I think that's simple, but, and I think we just need to at some point capture the reasons that we gave.
There are two
What I can-
areas that I'd kind of like to look at and
Okay.
simplify. And so I'm just going to throw these out. And Scott, I would be really interested in your reaction, since you're the one, you've got, all of these decades of experience. The two things, one is nanny passes. I know that has been an issue in the past. And one of the thoughts I have had about nanny passes, and actually you even took it a step further for me in my thought process when you mentioned having different colors, hanging tags. Could a nanny pass just be a hang tag that we,
Tried that. Everybody froze.
Did we lose Pam?
We lost
the
Pam,
issue
yeah.
to a family?
There
They
she
only.
Yep, yeah, she's kind of back.
I'm kind of back. Oh, my internet, yes, I'm unstable.
We lost you after you said hang tag.
Yeah.
We did try the hang tag and it didn't really work because it gets passed off.
What do you mean it gets passed off?
They put it on another car.
Who's they? Like, what would a
The
family?
people that have it.
So the family would not just keep it for, well, what if it was only good for Monday through Friday, like the work week?
We've approached that, but then we work on the weekends.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
the
me ask a question, Scott.
Exactly.
the
Scott,
pass
what is-
needs to
what
be
is-
affixed to the caregiver's vehicle.
Okay.
What is your recommendation about a
Otherwise,
nanny pass?
everybody's using the portable tag.
Correct.
I don't want to stop the conversation. We have a specific dedicated discussion on fees and how to do this. And Pam, it's a fair point. I mean, we've got to talk about seniors. We need to talk about veterans and nannies. So it's going to go down a rabbit hole. So I'd rather kind of put that in there. I hope that's okay.
Well, right now, Rob, the seniors are for this year are staying at 60.
Right. I don't think
So-
we're talking about making any fee changes this
Right.
year. I
Right.
guess the question maybe, Pam, to your point is,
Process.
what is the process today for a nanny pass today? Because we wouldn't be looking to make any changes this season.
They have to verify that the person is working for them and we issue a tag for them.
Okay.
And we have in our regulations, it's only supposed to be one. And then we hear, well, I have more than one. I mean, that's where,
More
like you
than
said,
one, yeah.
with the rabbit hole, Rob, it just keeps on opening up. I don't just have one nanny, I have two. And we don't know where to go with it.
Is this something we should, other towns don't necessarily have nanny passes? Is this
Correct.
something should we even keep?
Well, I mean, what we advocate is, well, if you have a nanny, then let them use your car that has a sticker on it
I know.
to take your kids to their own beach.
How many are we talking?
I'd have to look to see how many we sold.
Okay,
I can do that and get back to you.
that would be good to know.
Scott, what's the price?
Number.
for-
It's an adult price, $40.
And then the other thing that I'm curious about is how we deal with renters or people who are renting.
They can, the way we've worked it is the homeowner can purchase guest passes for $10 each. So Pam, you're renting the house for a week. They can come in and buy, just like the inn, like an inn, they can buy 7 daily passes. And they leave them with the people, they're all prepaid. People can, okay, I'm going to the beach, we're going to the beach, take the pass, get it activated, and they're done. So it's $10 a day.
And do people take advantage of that?
Well, I mean, Beach Tree, I mean, it's the same as Beach Tree, Tidewater, Scranton House. I mean, they all buy them. So it's just up to the private resident to,
Right.
okay, they're coming for 2 weeks. Yeah, I'll buy $100 worth of daily passes. And you charge the people. You know, yeah, for your convenience, we'll have passes available for you so you can go and use the beach.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it's an outlandish request. They just have to build it into what they're charging,
Mhm.
you know, or I think that's the easiest way, that we treat them like a bed and breakfast, where the bed and breakfast is the one that's buying the passes.
Okay.
I mean,
Tim,
if
I
it
think-
if it is, if it's for a full season, say somebody like Vince wants to go to Florida and he wants to rent his, well, I don't know why he'd want to go down to Florida in the summer, but he wants to rent his house. If they're there for the full season, they're in, and we have the rental agreement that's saying it's for the full season, they can buy a seasonal pass.
And that would be the sticker.
Correct. I mean, so we've tried to make it workable for both situations, which sometimes gets us in Dutch because everybody wants, well, I'm only here for 6 weeks. Well, okay, then you're here for 6 weeks. Talk to your landlord who you're renting from, and they can buy passes.
Well, wouldn't it be better to have a weekly pass then for renters rather than a daily?
Then it's going to get, to me, then it's going to get more complicated at the gate, because we're going to have to look at the dates on the pass. I mean, we can certainly run it so 7/4 to 7/12, but
Right.
you know, a lot of these people don't even want to stop at the gate, let alone let us see it.
But they have to they have to now though, right?
They technically have to stop, but sometimes we're chasing them in the park.
Yeah, but whether they have daily passes or weekly passes, they still would have to stop because you would have to.
Right, with the daily, they would have to stop at the gate, and then we would activate the pass. It's prepaid, but then we'd put the date down on the pass, so it
Mhm.
can't be reused.
Right, but
Right.
if they had a window where their pass allowed them to come in, you just check that, oh, okay, so if this is good, this is a renter's pass during this week, you're
Yep.
good to go.
I mean, as long as they stop and let us see it.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, they essentially have to, right? Everybody gets stopped at the gate, right?
Everybody's supposed to stop at stop signs.
So
The
I
trick
think
there,
anything we
Kim,
can
is
do
that
to avoid,
Anyway, I just think a weekly, I think
I
it would
mean,
make
it's an option to look at, definitely.
okay.
Kim, what I
the
would say
drawback
is-
is you're adding another category, right? And the way it is now, your situation fits one of two already established categories, right? Either the resident rate guest pass purchased by a resident, or the season pass if you can prove that you're going to be here for the season
Correct.
as a seasonal resident, right?
Correct.
Then you're going to add another category, and then people are going to sort of jockey into trying to fit themselves into one, or, another category.
Well, and in some ways, I think it would be more fair if you're just a seasonal resident and you're gonna be here for 14 weeks. I would rather see them pay $140 personally for weekly passes than just pay the regular resident rate. That's just that's my opinion. Everybody can have their own, but I just think a weekly rate, I think it's simpler for renters, for that type of seasonal rental, but again, that's my opinion. That's my
Well,
point.
and Pam, I think it's fair, and I think the goal of these discussions was not one and done. I think we're not looking to make any changes this season per se, but I think this discussion does continue. Scott will remain on as a consultant. Austin will be here. I think in the spirit of being easy to do business with, clarity, simplicity, but there's also, when it comes to the rate discussion, you know, what's the value? That's a whole other discussion. I think what we're talking about is right. I think it really is owed its own discussion. So I don't think we say no to this. I just say, let's address
Explore it.
what the current state is and what do we need to consider future state. Because remember, next year is also about price increases. That's already been communicated. That was in the minutes from the first selectmen's meeting. We'll probably cover that with no numbers on the meeting that Peggy wants to have. So we are at 8:45. You know, are there any other points, and we may not go on a deep dive, but anything else anyone has any pain, angst, or questions about with regarding to non-resident or parking, or just as we wrap up this discussion?
I'm good.
Okay. I will work with Scott and Austin, unless someone else wants to take it, as well as the minutes, to take what we decided and try and craft what a motion would look like. And then, you know, maybe Pam, just so it's not me as the chair, but you know, maybe we just be prepared to come in under old business and say the commission discussed limited non-resident pass volume of 15%. And daily passes will be the process. And that's really it. And if we vote on that, then we have to operationalize it. But to keep it simple, again, we have a whole discussion on operations where we need to learn and make sure Austin has it and Scott can give us some insight. Pam, are you okay with that? You feel like that? I'm happy to do it. I don't want to put it on you. I just want to make sure that.
No, I can put together, I've been taking notes, so I'm happy to put together a motion, and other people can tweak it too, so.
Yeah, we will as a group. Yeah. Okay. So thank you all. I think as a matter of record, it's great that we were actually able to affirm that, you know, we are open and welcoming, and this is a great way to make sure the residents are considered in that process as put up front. Okay, with that said, we have no new business on the agenda. Does anyone have any new business they want to introduce? So hearing no new business being introduced, we would be open to public comments at this time. I don't see that we have any public, anyone left. Whereas there's no other public comments, I would just want to thank everyone for their time and their discussion this evening and their preparation. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay, so Vince and then